Let's go.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We have Tony Ho, who's a Vice President of Global Business Development at Segway. And he's here, luckily we have him here to kind of talk about sort of the most cutting edge applications of AIOT in 2022, whether that's for shared fleets or, relevant to today's growth, autonomous robo-couriers for urban deliveries. So we're super happy to have him here, and thanks Tony for joining us. I'll leave the floor to you and then jump back in towards the end just to ask a few questions, because there's a lot and you guys are working on really great things. So over to you.
Thanks, Alexandro. I actually won't go that far as a superstar. As far as I'm concerned, I think the industry is very young and I'm pretty old relatively to that. So compared to that, I probably have a little bit experience under my belt. So I want to spend maybe the first five to 8 minutes about talking a little bit update about the company, and also kind of a recap on what we have been up to recently. A lot has changed, and especially after pandemic and after essentially everybody's coming back, a lot has changed. So I will spend a little bit time talking about the company, and then I will dive a little bit more into the details about AIs and IoTs and stuff. So I try to keep it casual because I see some familiar faces in the chat group. So it's almost like felt like a reunion as opposed to a conference here. So a quick recap. Let me see if I can flip my. Can everyone see? Yeah. Okay. So 2021, it's been a little bit different year for us, because this is sort of the first year we have gone public for a complete year. So we're in the public eyes for much longer, and it's very often we catch media, caught media attention. And for those who you might or might not know, we were listed in China, Shanghai Stock Exchange, November 2020. So it's just over a year we are listed and public traded company. So a lot of the informations specifically about the company operations are actually public information now. So probably you have to rely on a little bit on your Chinese friends or whoever reads Chinese, and you can probably get a lot more detailed information about us. So a lot has happened. One of the things we actually got quite proud last year, 2021, is that we actually had a record year for essentially shipping micromobility vehicles. So we're not ready to disclose the second half of the year yet. But just first half of 2021 alone, we shipped over 2 million vehicles. So in other words, that actually includes kick scooters, regular like bigger moped scooters, electric motorcycles, e-bikes, and small and big all-terrain vehicles included. So that's over 2 million vehicles. So just first half a year. Second half usually is better in the industry. Typically, you have the holiday seasons. So the past Black Friday, we actually see just Black Friday, we shipped over 27,000 vehicles. So that mostly are like scooters and e-bikes and those. So from business result point of view, it's actually doing extremely well as a company, but also it shows that how fast the industry is growing by itself. So we're kind of very fortunate to ride that wave. As far as sort of the relevant topic today is that we have invested heavily in AIs and sort of the cutting edge technology to help all the our customer to improve their results, and also essentially help our consumers or customers to using Horace's term is getting their job done. So we had this, I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew from the past Micromobility conference, we had this T60 and T60 Lite robotic scooter demonstration. And also we have announced that we had the first success in the sort of delivery robot marketplace was, for example, a company like Coco. So I talked a little bit specific about these as kind of example for that. So our vision, or we still kind of remain the same, and we're still focusing on moving essentially people or things. It depends on how you look at things. But I think we categorize them also under micromobility. So we have sort of capped that directions. And strategy-wise, we want to make sure we are enabling all our partners, and we don't operate business on ourselves. So we'll continue to innovate in the last mile product category. At the same time, we help industry to scale faster and also and operate more efficiently with better return on investment. So that's sort of the high level business talk. But I guess the reason we focus so much on AI or IoT is not just because it's cool, right? It's really helping the business to achieve their results. So not to mention it's not just the efficiency, but also how do we reduce the total cost of ownership, and how do we help regulators and cities to enforce all the rules, and also I always say sometimes we hope to create some new business model by leveraging the technology, and we become part of the sort of enabling factor, and we kind of succeed together with our partners. So just quick refresh. So we still are going down the path, and there's actually a lot of some deployment activities going on. You probably see on the news with the 3-wheel autonomous scooters, and lately we also introduced the T60 Lite with the autonomous feature, but also a lot of the AI recognition features, and it's helping the city to organize and to track parking and making sure enforce sidewalk rules, and of course the T60 is, it's a really kind of in some way like a interesting AI pilot for us, is that ultimately might enable autonomous driving or returning to or charging and rebalancing activities. So that it's going to be the sort of the holy grail. Eventually, somebody will summon the scooter. So it takes time. It takes time, but we're still going down the path, and we believe that's actually something. It's our future. And then as a little bit teaser, we actually are not like sort of doing a big promotion on this, but we actually start to introduce our latest, we call them AI IOT scooters too. They might not look too different from a regular scooters, but actually they actually have a lot of AI ability packed into it. So this is sort of the image. This is not rendering. This is actually a real product. We are ready to ship. And the difference is that if you notice very closely, there's actually a little, we call them AI box here underneath the handlebar, and they actually pack a lot of the computing power and also some of the sensor features into that little box. It becomes part of the scooter. So the important thing is we want to make sure they're part of the integrated solution, not as sort of the afterthought or add-on accessories. So some of these features, like computer vision features, and also some of the cameras, they are the hardware and the sort of the software operating system, like it's part of your laptop or phones, and because that's how we believe the future scooters should be, and they should be part of the hardware and the whole product out of the box, as opposed to you will have to add on something later. And obviously, there's a lot of advantage to that, not to mention cost advantage and also sort of the ability to run better with more reliability and efficiencies. And then the second example we are using here is actually the actual robot. So some of the people, if you track what we do on the robotics side, we actually announced a sort of experimental delivery robot a while back. And there's a lot of activities going on, both smaller payload, big payload, different indoor and outdoor robotics. But this is sort of the first time we actually we are commercially developing some of the robotic technology we have. So in the case of Coco, who happened to be our sort of our first large-scale deployment partner, we actually also provide a whole set of solutions to Coco to work with, so we can help the operator to scale fast. So we can talk about a little bit as a dialogue, or feel free to ask me questions. But I just want to say that this is sort of the just the beginning of everything, that we are focusing a lot more on technology, and also we're focusing on helping our partners, not just on the passenger delivery side, but also on the goods deliveries. And so some of the speaker was talking about the instant commerce. I think we're very proud that we could also be part of that solution. So and there's a lot of growth and excitement in the industry. So we see the shift beyond just the sort of the passengers delivery in the micromobility definition. Now we start to seeing actually sidewalk and delivery robots and all the I guess it's different form factor, right? So with that, I think I'll probably stop here by just saying that we are actually open to partner with all kinds of operators, just like we have been doing in the kick scooter space. And most of the approach we take is actually quite open. So it's a lot of collaborators, including the software guys, the operators, and the system cloud guys. And we totally have sort of the open-mindedness to work with everybody, and so we can focus more on the product innovation side. So that was a quick recap. I want to use that. That's sort of a good segue into our conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you, Tony. And I think it's really interesting how you started life, at least public life, for Segway, focusing on products that deliver passengers or people. And now it seems like, with the growth of instant commerce and urban delivery being such an important thing to make more efficient, now you're moving into delivering things. So in sort of the research and development process that Segway has had over the past 10 years or so for autonomous robots, what sort of challenges did you have to address in designing a vehicle specifically for the sidewalk? And how do those compare to challenges for robots that are designed for the car lane or even the bike lane, like Refraction AI or Neuro?
Yeah, I think there are probably two big ones I can just think at the top of my head. The first one is probably the sort of the right sizing of robot. I think we'll probably see many examples of really big one to like autonomous cars, for example, to small tiny ones, and so some of them doesn't have enough payload, but it's actually very quick to build, and also easy to deploy, and probably slower as well. But so it's almost like there's so many different variables, it's very hard to get it right. So there's a lot of study on the trade-off. I guess engineering or technology is about trade-offs. So there's a lot of study there, and actually I'm pretty sure all the people in the audience will agree with me is that this actually I don't think everybody's getting it right yet, right? So from from probably 10 years ago when the whole autonomous driving started. It's like that. Second, we find it's actually very interesting is that this is only recently we noticed is that majority of the robotics company are fairly new to. I guess everybody's new, but I think there's quite a few of the startup companies, and they're very good at the technology itself. For example, the AI itself, right? Algorithm and sort of experimental units. But scaling is actually very, very hard. So you can make one, you can make even 10, 100, but when you have to scale, actually, that's where we notice is actually it becomes our forte that we can scale to. Perfect example is that we have 2 million scooters shipped out, right? So things like that, how you bring a design concept all the way to sort of a reliable product and scale them to something manufacturable. And also when you scale, how do you reduce the cost to a fact that you can afford it to be one. Two is that with limited capital, you really have to deploy as many as you can to maximize revenue, right? So I think scalability start to become a question. So we can kind of sort of step in a very timely fashion that okay, we know how to scale and we have proven that. So that's why company like Coco and they actually appreciate the fact that we were able to scale very quickly with them. So deep down, we're still a startup company, so we actually know how their life is like. So we had a very good experience working with them.
Great. And you also mentioned that you're kind of working on a new scooter product, which has it's simplified a lot of the componentry involved in integrating AI and IoT into the scooter. And so how have you sort of approached the development of a new vehicle that has all of these, really sophisticated AI and IoT technologies on board without kind of overburdening what is kind of a simple form factor? So how have you kind of approached including certain features or not?
Yeah, we have a fairly pragmatic or practical approach. If you look at all the company philosophies and also what happened in the past, we have always been very practical. And being practical means you stick to the problem you're trying to solve. So if you look at the T60 Lite and also now the AI box enabled scooters, they are in some way a lesser difficult problem compared to the autonomous driving robotic scooters, right? So we are only addressing, because they're two-wheelers, and we're trying to use the computer visions to address some of the sort of little bit easier problem than autonomous driving. We were able to actually reduce the cost, and also we were able to pack them smaller. That actually is essentially a good example that we are focusing the end result, the job to be done, right? It's actually, we don't care if it's totally autonomous driving or not, because our customer was telling us, all right, autonomous driving is cool, but it's really down the future. All I need to do now is recognizing pedestrians and making sure they park at the right spot. So we took those the feedbacks to heart, and basically when we design around them, there's so many trade-off factors, right? So we were able to kind of trade them off with all these really cutting-edge features. In fact, we in some way we also right-sized it. It's almost the buzzword today. It's right-sizing the scooters and also the robots. So that's sort of the takeaway when I went through that process together with our engineers. Every single meetings we were talking about that. So that seems to be a fairly good way of approach trade-offs.
Yeah. So just matching the design features with the use case and what's needed.
And also matching the trajectory of scalability as well. So because if you don't have the end goal in mind, you have a really chance to say, hey, this is good enough. But we actually we look at the end of the result. We say, hey, is this a scalable product or not? If it's not scalable, we're not going to do this. So that
Right.
that actually influenced our design quite a bit.
Right. And do you, maybe a final question, can you maybe, do you see any differences between, vertically integrating within the scooter industry versus the autonomous delivery space? Are there things that you've noticed from people who are in those industries that maybe make them a bit different?
I think there is actually quite a different approach because I think robotics industry is, relatively speaking, a lot more complex system, if you will. And it calls for many different expertise and also probably different type of service and different type of even components and hardware and software. So it's probably not as easy as the sort of early days of the micromobility industry that everybody is, not everybody. So the well-funded one are very vertically integrated, and because they just go to a factory saying, hey, make 10,000 scooters for me. Even though in the early days, capacity was a big constraint. So that's one of the reasons we were pretty ahead of the game, because we had the capacity early on. But later on, you will notice that, especially after last past 2 years, there seems to be a divergence of, a lot of people outsourcing supply chain, and also essentially leave the product to the product companies like us. But robotics industry might be slightly different. I would venture to guess is that it will be mostly compartmentized, or there will be hardware company focused on hardware most, software company running on sort of common platform like ROS2 and that kind of thing, and also there will be cloud companies and also service company who does operations and stuff. But I think because the nature of the complexity of the industry, it seems to be more specialized or unbundled, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are certain cases where even a neurobot for certain urban delivery couriers is just overkill. There are certain use cases where that doesn't always make sense, and particularly in instant commerce, it's just a different way of handling the logistics of doing deliveries. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
it's really exciting that you're kind of playing the market in terms of where does each company stand in their needs, and that's why it's really great that you decided to join us here. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Tony's a legend in my eyes, and also a close neighbor. So we really do appreciate having him here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Great, Tony. Really, thanks again for coming on, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.